All right, I'm like butter because I'm on a roll. We're actually gonna make this nice and sweet. So I'm slowly building up to my general idea, right? So one of the greatest things that I think that I've come up with on and it's on LXMNV.com is my partial solution to local homelessness. Yes, we pursue these selfish ambitions and this and that, but ultimately at some point we have to contribute back, right? So as I'm trying to chase my dreams and I'm trying to establish my agenda in my local community, one must also acknowledge some of the problems, right? And we have to come up with some solutions. So I wrote a page or two. It's called, yeah, a partial solution to local homelessness. And basically, it's about using recycled materials and industrial waste um, to build sustainable housing, right? Affordable, sustainable, out in nature, one with nature, using solar power, heat, rivers, um, movement, um, just just whatever sustainable energy, utilizing that into our living situation, and then building communities around it, small enough to where people know each other, they can build together, take pride in what they do, learn a few skills, and then kind of grow up out of this little community. So, anyways, I uploaded that and the actual business model proposition, right? If I were to seek some funders, if I were to meet a rich guy, a billionaire who's like, "Hey, I really like your ideas. Here's an unlimited amount of money for you to grow your agenda." I would immediately build up this homeless solution because it's also a housing solution, right? If we can build 10, 15, 20 houses from some shipping containers, make that a small community, use some solar panels, use the river for power, um, and just kind of incorporate a smaller feel to it to where everybody doesn't have these four-bedroom houses to themselves, but rather a little bit of personal space, a little bit of sleeping quarters, a general community area to where people interact, but they also conduct business, right? So, in addition to trying to overcome your challenges, we want to teach these people the idea of ownership and pride and having some stake in the game and taking some doing things with quality and some actual effort, because everything that people do and have is a small reflection of who they are and this and that. So I uploaded this business plan and then referenced my website with AI again because I don't have any friends, and it's actually relatively smart enough, intelligent enough that it reads it, gives me some valuable feedback, and I'm interacting with it, right? So, and the reason why I had to go and simplify some of this is I wrote this a year or a year and a half ago. I've moved on a few topics later, right? But it's also the key, I guess, a key contribution of my work. In addition to writing a couple books, one of the problems that I was really trying to solve was how do we end um, ignorance and poverty, because those two are just such prevalent enemies of humanity, the unsolvable crimes, right? And as a Christian, I was like, all right, let's pick a worthy battle so that I have a reason to ask for help, but to also pray even harder, be like, Lord, so far, some of these problems have not been overcome. How do we overcome them this present day? Because I'm, send me at some point. We just got to be willing to be sent into battle so that we can advance our cause, right? And so technically, my LXMNV.com stuff is is Christianese in purpose. The goal is to give you hope, set you free in here, give you some financial tools, give you some financial literacy, and even establish little communities, networks run by good people that could take a troubled soul, could take an addicted mindset, could take an abandoned person and restore him back to have self confidence and some dignity about himself to go on about his life and contribute further to not only the society but the world. At some point, after we've been selfish for long enough, let's try being selfless for a change. So, excuse me, the day is long, and I was going to try to make this video short, but that was a long introduction. I'm quite a few cups of coffee in already. Okay, so it summarized it for me. Ugh, I hate this. So, my solution to homelessness, my solution to a troubled soul, my solution to business is the Bible. So I've already mentioned this quite a few times. I should probably look in the camera, huh? I have my glasses on, so I'm assuming you can't see me. But I also flipped the phone so that I can no longer look at myself talk. And that's kind of distracting because for a while, I was at least interacting with my own self, talking to myself, right? I'm, yeah, I love it how it wants to restart when I'm doing the thing. All right. It gave me some bullshit response. I said, nah, did you read my homeless solution on my website? And look at the file I showed you, which was the business plan, the proposition. I want you to summarize my homeless solution on LXMNV.com way. Include how the Christian mentality is what truly fosters the healing process. So far, nothing has worked to end drug and addictions and homelessness. We need a holistic approach, and it's Christianity, but it's an individual free mindset type of Christianity, which includes entrepreneurship. And that's the key thing. If we are following people for advice, for survival, for nurturance and protection, then we're really not aligned with with the source, right? We are looking for other people to kind of spit food in our mouth so that that's already pre-chewed so that we can just swallow and go on about our day and then blindly follow. The goal is to think individually. The goal is to I mean, life and the world is technically yours to explore, and yet we often just do nothing with it, right? Or sometimes we just aren't thinking big enough so that we face these rock bottoms and we're stuck in these addictions and hopeless situations and homeless situations, and then we can't figure it out. But the goal is to also approach problems from a different perspective, from one or two or three or four perspectives. And so this is, I guess, a case for the Christian perspective. The LXMNV approach to homelessness crisis is not a standard social program. It is an industrial and spiritual restoration project designed to solve the hidden inefficiencies of human potential. I said some big words. Just hang tight. And if it goes over your head and you don't mind it, that's perfectly cool with me. This solution recognizes the government-led initiatives have failed because they lack a core of sovereign architecture and long-term purpose. breaking down my homeless solution, the foundation, individual sovereign Christianity. The healing process is anchored in a specific, free mindset Christian mentality. It rejects the idea of residents as victims and instead views them as sovereign individuals capable of owning their own narrative. Villages are operated by local pastors and discipleship teams who focus on restoring the royal heaven creature within you. So there's quite a difference between trying to bring a person back to health, whether it's mental health, physical health, um, soul health, versus fucking punishing the shit out of them, right? There's a little bit of give and take. How do we want to proceed? Are we disciplining animals, or are we communicating with humans who sometimes are just not aware of what they're doing, or of the next 2 or 3 steps ahead, right? Sometimes we're too busy cutting the string, not knowing that that string is actually what's holding us up. The individual will. I'm breathless, I'm sorry. Healing from drug addiction and homelessness is a spiritual battle that requires a personal decision to stand in one's true nature and worth. The pillar of integrity. This approach uses Christian compassion as the fuel to rebuild character, which is the only force capable of sustaining long term sobriety and independence. Underline this: government agencies, psychologists, professionals, militaries, teachers, just all sorts of people and systems have tried to reform these people, right? I believe that only a loving, nurturing caretaker could restore a broken heart, could restore a broken spirit. Some spiritual advice, some spiritual guidance is what really nurtures that pain inside of us, right? Or that loneliness or that loss. And so I know there's a lot of bad talk about the church, but if we were trying to save face a little bit, we would actually help solve some of this homeless crisis by just appointing proper people to go out and designate some energy and time, not just like feed a little bit here and there once or twice a week. But what if we actually use the church, the local government, the artists, and the contractors to come together, give a little bit of time, donate by not fucking gouging on the prices, knowing that ultimately these villages, these communities are going to be housing people with intent to help them up, instead of like, I'm the contractor, I set the price, let me get my shit, like, let's at least not in this situation come in with intent of ripping it, or ripping off the government or the system or whatever, right? Because there will be plenty of people who naturally come a little bit later, or even the residents, right? They're gonna obviously try to take advantage of a system if it's there. But if we have proper pillars, if we have proper communications, if we have trustworthy people and some proper nourishing hearts in charge of administering this help, much needed help to the community, I think that could be quite a solution, right? So use local artists to repurpose shipping containers, old ships, um, airplanes, the semi truck stuff, even trains. I've seen some cool restaurants made out of trains and stuff, cafes, little boats. Just humans could live in a cardboard box underneath a fucking bridge. Like, we can repurpose some larger things, right? Because it's gonna get tossed anyways. So it's time to be a little bit more sustainable in our ways. Let's see the engine. So while there, the residents actually need something to do. They need the training. They need the actual food and the potatoes the the meat and the potatoes for their head and their soul, right? So in addition to I wrote a couple books on self development and self actualization, self fortification, I guess, right? Becoming of self, with intent of encouraging people to now go be a leader of sorts. If you're gonna go do something, do it to the best of your ability with intent to become better. And then ultimately that'll kind of weasel you up to the top of the game. And then you're gonna either be a boss or have your own thing. And then from there, further prosperity goes, right? And so hypothetically, the system is that simple. Develop a good loop, train people in a loop, and then they should come out on the other side. However, the key element that's been missing is the nourishing, loving touch of a forgiving, loving maker, the Father, and some capable people overseeing it instead of it being a money grab. Unlike traditional shelters, this model is a social enterprise designed to break the chains of poverty through work and ownership. Residents engage in woodworking, crafts, and production of recycled goods to create revenue and master new trades. At some point, we could have enough needy people who need training to go out and help further build further villages, or clean up half the city, or landscape and do some kind of refurbishing for a struggling business, right? So we could have these repeated cycles of value that just need the initial investment, and then after that it could be its own $1 trillion type of cycles. So if every major city in the United States had one of these Christian homeless communities, or two or three outside of the major city, i think I think that in itself could be a huge economic burden relief, but also like a reinforcement, right? the the cocking of the shotgun, just big fucking um big buckshot of productivity coming up if we train these people correctly. See, training residents engage, blah blah blah. The villages serves as a practical forge where residents learn high precision skills found in LXMNV courses. Like I said, I have books, I have courses, but the courses all lead to self-employment, being your own boss, running a business, understanding a venture good enough that you can sell your own services. The goal is to mine up your own value and then become sellable or sell your skills. The system is built on the poor leadership clause, ensuring that the community thrives through excellence and disciple rather than bureaucratic waste. Yep, I had a poor leadership clause. It said, um, failure to be good stewards will result in self termination or something, right? But it's just how pretty much every business, every government, every enterprise ever worked. Should you mismanage this long enough, it'll be shut down. So, should the people or the pastors or the funders or the builders mismanage these homeless solution, um, it'll ultimately dry up and die again, like everything else. That's the thing. Everything is drying up and dying. We need a sustainable solution. And I've written this up a year and a half ago, which is why, like, the people that kind of know me face to face, like, oh, this snobby motherfucker. Well, think of shit like this and nobody's listening. And I'm just like, look, man, I'm done arguing with people. Or I could be talking about some celebrity bullshit. Entrepreneurship and training, blah, blah, blah. The architecture, transforming waste into dignity. And I'm almost done reading. This is important, actually. The physical environment is an artistic and mechanical solution to environmental and human decay, right? We have a lot of trash. We live in these wooden boxes that aren't very well made, heavily regulated, and we still throw away a lot of stuff. We could remake something with all the scrap metal, with all the aluminum, with all the glass, with all the plastic. We could just melt shit and make new shit out of it, and put it off to the side and let people, I don't know, figure it out. The world is ours technically. That's the crazy thing, is we're so limited by our thinking that we forget that in this life we're allowed to do absolutely anything with life. So, and it's not within reason, it's within the allowed freaking laws of nature. Like, you can't jump off a cliff and expect to fly for very long unless you're designed that way. But you sure the hell can design something so you can fly all you want, right? So to some degree, we just, there's only a few things that we gotta worry about, and then the social interaction laws, and that's simply because we want to live a good life, and we're not trying to cause too much harm to other people because it impedes their way of life, and we technically wouldn't want that done to us. So that's why we at least want to. I'm out of breath. You know. I've been hearing a lot of people these dry coughs around me, just like uh uh dry couple, and I don't know what's in the back of my throat. I just know it's super dry, and I could blame it on weed. I can blame it on the vape, but I could also blame it on something being sprayed in the air. Because the people that cough around me are not participating in my extracurricular inhaling activities. Okay. Damn, this was gonna be a professional video. Yep. By involving local artists and builders, the housing is not just functional, but carries high end dignity required for a person to respect their environment and themselves. If we have local artists and contractors and governors and stuff just putting up shit in our community will look beautiful, and then there would be a sense of pride, and then the people who support the artists will also support the work, and then it would just be this huge wave of excitement about your hometown. And that's just a small attempt at one of the solutions, at one of the problems, right? If we were to attempt to solve small homeless issue, well, that could become a huge blessing, right? Because it would be a housing thing, it would become a community engagement thing, it would become a cost thing. Everybody knows that when you do business with the government, you can just drive up the prices and this and this and this. And so, and we see that with this war, right? They shoot off a couple missiles, and we're a couple $1 billion in the hole already, or we've spent a couple $1 billion because we needed to repair a freaking ship. And yeah, we're just ripping off ourselves, really, right? It's that selfish. So this at least gives us a little bit of, I don't know, rebirth of pride, I guess, redemption, right? Let's build up the place that we live in. The goal. The goal is the restoration. It's not shelter. The ultimate metric is not how many people are housed, but how many people are restored. Success is defined by residents transitioning into jobs, permanent sobriety, or independent living as productive members of the region. Yes, these small little houses that teach you how to have a job skill are intended to help you transition to some bigger responsibility and some bigger contribution, because it's on the other side of that is where a good life is. This model aims to reduce public strain while creating a cleaner environment and more resilient local communities. Imagine if healing was cool. Imagine if sobriety and being clean and responsible was actually kind of cool again. Because we've already done all the party shit, and we've only self-destructed, right? The eternal return. By treating homelessness as a meaning crisis, the solution offers a moral return that restores human potential through the power of the spirit and the discipline of entrepreneurship. My goodness, that's a big word. And the discipline of entrepreneurship. So we would encourage and build up these men to find their inner pride and ego and self-worth, to go and get their money, to go and make something with their hands, to go and build something for the people in the community with intent of just, that's what men do, that's what people do, you know, that's where the meaning is, that's where the value is. All right, hopefully it's under 20 minutes because this was a long video. So this is part of my homeless solution, and it's actually pretty much the best thinking I've ever done. So it needed to be connected by a few books and some thorough thoughts. But if we were to combine the problem of drugs and homelessness and hopelessness with some Christianity and the generosity and love and the peace of all of that, it would balance out to be to be a decent life, right, for everybody around. Anyways, that's the last video for today. Thank you for watching.